Well, welcome to an introduction to the Pathway of Hope. I'm Colonel Dorothy Smith, and with me are the Central Territory Women's Ministries Department, Major Joyce Gothier, Sarah McCula, and Sharon Collins. Today we'd like to introduce you to a new approach to ministry with families who request emergency assistance in our Corps.
Pathway of Hope is designed to bring the community, social services, and their core congregation together to help families transform their future by breaking the cycle of intergenerational poverty and walking the path towards self-sufficiency.
In this segment, we will describe the goals and processes of the Pathway of Hope and share a real-life story of how it worked for one family in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
In segment 2, we'll share how your Corps can get involved with the Pathway of Hope with ideas that have worked in our territory. And in segment 3, we'll help your women's ministry strategize for working alongside Pathway of Hope families.
I like this concept.
Me too.
Yeah. Women are so passionate about ministering to the world. In fact, we want to change the world for good. We take on so many issues, whether it be sexual trafficking, cancer research, veterans affairs, homelessness, hunger, or low educational scores, and we do something about it.
We fundraise by doing dinners, yes, but we also run marathons and design t-shirts for projects. We encourage social media and volunteering.
We also form mission teams and support children's homes overseas. We help Salvation Army sisters globally by purchasing handmade goods produced through the Others program. We teach Sunday school, among other things.
When women get involved with the Pathway of Hope, we're offering the families in our communities support, encouragement, and even our skills. But we're also inviting them to share in relationship through our own hope in Jesus Christ, who transforms us all.
You might be asking why the Pathway of Hope. Isn't the Salvation Army already a leader in serving needs? More than 17 million people are helped nationally through emergency assistance programs.
That's true. And we are leaders, but now we're being called on to respond differently. With the Pathway of Hope, the Salvation Army will shift beyond inspired serving to intentional solving. We'll serve families in needs, but we'll also invite them to help solve the root causes of the crises so that their futures will be increasingly stable. We'll make a huge impact on many families in that way.
I like that. From serving to solving. That makes a lot of sense.
It does. And we'll also shift from tracking only outputs, such as people served or the amount of food and utilities or rent provided, to also producing outcomes, which reflect lives changed in a sustained way. Sarah, you know that we live in an evidence-based society, and funders and donors need to know that their financial support is transforming lives. We'll shift from excellent localized response to one with a shared vision, which captures the benefits of being a large organization. The Pathway of Hope will provide a shared approach, shared training, shared statistics, shared evaluation, so that we can all benefit from that consistent method of helping people.
I love the future orientation of the Pathway of Hope.
Yes.
It's refreshing to see a program that takes steps towards the future holistically. Will our emergency assistant program suffer?
No. We'll continue to serve those in need while targeting families with children for Pathway of Hope. It'll provide more intensive work with them. That's why the Pathway of Hope has to be a team effort, where our entire Corps is involved in some aspect of Pathway of Hope. We can't expect our social services department to do all that alone, especially if they're a department of one.
I love that vision and purpose.
Yes.
So why focus on families with children?
Well, according to the Urban Institute, children who grow up in poverty are 32 times more likely to be in poverty as adults. So if we can assist a family towards stability and sufficiency, we can double our impact for this generation and the next.
Now, how will we accomplish this?
Let me tell you about the Pathway of Hope pipeline. I'm really excited about this because it's the theory that this approach is based on. So after surveying caseworkers and Corps officers in our territory and looking at the current research about poverty, we identified 4 major stages that a client has a potential to progress through from the moment they reach out to us in need: crisis, vulnerability, increasing stability, and sufficiency. Usually when families first come to us, they're in a crisis stage. Something has happened and they're unable to provide their basic needs. So they request food or rent or utility assistance. And with the Salvation Army, when we assist families, they move from crisis to vulnerability stage.
What do you mean by vulnerability stage?
Well, once the critical need is met, They're not in crisis, but they are at high risk of falling back into crisis because no plans have been made to address the cause. Many of our families cycle between crisis and vulnerability.
So how do we break that ongoing cycle from crisis to vulnerability?
Well, we help the clients progress to increasing stability, the third stage, by working with caseworkers to develop a plan to take action. They identify where they fit along the pathway already and how they're going to address the root causes of the crisis and barriers to sufficiency. We'll talk more about the barriers in a minute. But finally, the fourth stage, the sufficiency stage, is reached when the family is able to consistently meet their basic needs through their own resources. They possess the assets and the support system to weather a temporary crisis. You might notice that we really don't call this the self-sufficiency stage because we believe that everyone is interdependent on each other and a support system is necessary for a fulfilling life.
So let me make sure I've got this right.
Okay.
Impact goal is to help clients break the cycle of repeating crisis by putting them on a path to increase stability.
Exactly.
What a powerful goal.
Thank you. Well, another principle of the approach that we've discovered is that taking action increases hope, and you can't underestimate hope. Mm-hmm. Hope is positive. Hope can get you through the darkest times and can help you take that next step that may solve the underlying crisis. That's why we call it Pathway of Hope.
We as women have the unique ability to nourish this hope. We can be there to encourage and support and celebrate their progress as they take positive actions to improve their lives.
You know, there's so many resources in our core for families. There's sports and youth character building activities, adult and senior programming, and sometimes even childcare and medical clinics. But our most important resource is people. People who are willing to share their lives with each other.
I agree. When someone has the desire and commitment to take action, we should come alongside them and help them achieve their goals.
Yes, it's a principle of good social work and social justice. And another unique aspect of the Salvation Army is that we offer families the choice of spiritual support. We believe that developing a spiritual connection will help people find hope through faith to cope and overcome their barriers. We're committed to providing emergency assistance to people without discrimination. But as a Salvation Army, our hope is in Jesus Christ, and we want to share that with all who are willing.
Let's continue to look at the pipeline because it seems like it would be easy to walk the pathway of hope.
If only it were. If you notice, there's a junction point between each stage, and these junction points represent barriers that prevent people from reaching the next stage.
That's a really good concept. People face so many barriers as
Yeah.
lack of basics such as food, shelter, childcare, job skills for livable income, medical care, community resources, and discrimination of all sorts.
Sometimes barriers are mental or physical health issues, lack of English skills, lack of savings, or even support network. Identifying the barriers that prevent reaching the next stage is a critical aspect of Pathway of Hope. The simple belief that the situation cannot change is a drain drain on hope and energy.
How does the Pathway of Hope approach specifically help families overcome these barriers?
That's a good question. The approach brings the resources of the members of the congregation, our social services, and the community together. It's to empower families to overcome the barriers and progress along the pathway to sufficiency. We'll do this in 3 different ways.
First, we will provide enhanced case management services to empower families to take action to overcome barriers. Second, we will partner with groups and community who will also work for the benefits of the clients, for jobs, health, and educational assistance to address various barriers that exist in each family. And finally, we will offer pastoral care as well as worship, educational, recreational, and fellowship aspects of our course. We want to bring the core internal resources together, aligning them to the needs of the families.
Yes, the men and the women of the Corps can pitch in and be a resource for families and caseworkers.
What is the ultimate goal of the Pathway of Hope?
The ultimate goal is a very bold goal. Are you ready for it?
Let's hear it.
We're going to help families break the cycle of intergenerational poverty. We're going to measure the progress along the Pathway of Hope pipeline as families complete their goals and reduce the number of barriers they face. And we're going to measure it by the amount of increased hope that they have when they realize their quality of their lives are increasing. And we'll measure the positive intergenerational impact by how much their income increases.
Over time, we expect that Pathway of Hope families will need emergency assistance less and less. Our ultimate outcomes will be achieved when families have improved opportunities, when they have positive connections with community and faith, and when they are on the pathway to sufficiency.
For this plan to work, many electronic resources have been developed to help implement the program.
These resources help both the caseworker and the families to map out their individualized plan and goals by responding to statements designed to bring out their needs, their strengths, their challenges, and their barriers. We'll chart the family's progress towards sufficiency and review it at 6 months or sooner. We'll celebrate success and capture the data and report the outcomes nationally.
But how does the Pathway of Hope work? Let us share our first client success story with you.
My son had a social worker through his Head Start, and I was in a lot of trouble, didn't know where to look, and she had called and told me about the Pathways of Hope.
She was coming into us because we had gotten her name from one of the social workers. She was one of the very first clients that we worked with.
I was really insecure about my life, and it helped me be more motivated and more driven to succeed.
I think a lot of it was just her own perseverance. I mean, she was just very good for the program. It was just a very good fit. And, I think that she just really needed that motivation, and that's why it's really important in the beginning, because not necessarily everyone has the perseverance that she did.
She had been living in an apartment with her 2 young children. She's a very young mother, and her parents had been paying for everything, trying to support her with these 2 kids. Because she really didn't have enough education or knowledge about resources to help herself at that point.
The Salvation Army Food Pantry, I had no idea about that. Paul's Pantry. There's a church, an outreach church, to help me get diapers and clothing for my children. I didn't know about that. W-2 program to help me get into the workforce. Through that, I ended up getting a good job. And I had no idea about any of this stuff. If it wasn't for the Pathways of Hope leading me in the right direction.
I think the Pathway of Hope approach was effective for her specifically because she got that more long-term support. She got that weekly support that we wouldn't have necessarily been able to provide to just a client coming in for regular services. Sue was there for her to just kind of call at any time, which I think was very helpful for her because she really thrived on that encouragement.
And my children, it helped my children a lot because I had no income to support them. I was getting money from people or just trying to make ends meet, and ended up finding a good job through W-2, and they hired me on. And my kids have changed drastically also, their outlook on life towards their mother. I can go out to eat, I can take them to McDonald's or Chuck E. Cheese, which I have not ever been able to do. Pathways of Hope helped me in so many ways that I can't describe. If it wasn't for the Pathways of Hope, I don't know if I would have ever been able to move on with my life. I was stuck in a hole, and the hope that you guys, that the program gave me, it gave me more security to myself. It helped me let myself know that I can do it. I can progress, and helped me realize that a lot of the community is there to help people that are in need. And it opened up my eyes to a lot of things in life. And my kids and I are very grateful because I wouldn't be able to be the mother that I am now if it wasn't for Pathways of Hope.
It's great to see how the Pathway of Hope has worked for a young family. And this was one of our first families from our pilot program in Green Bay, Wisconsin. In the next section, we will share how CORE can begin planning for involvement in holistic ministry with our client families.